Okay, last class we started with the third module, satellite communication systems, and we will look at we saw the Kepler's law. Three laws are there, and there are six elements, orbital elements, and we look at this orbital perturbations and enter this satellite subsystems today. So we saw that these are the bands used for satellite communication. It's digital broadcast satellite or DTH that uses KU band, 12 to 18 gigahertz. C band is for fixed satellite service, not to DTH. L band is for mobile satellite service and navigation system. And we need a few elements to define artificial satellite to locate artificial satellites, the orbit and the location. They are defined by six elements. They are referred to as orbital elements or a Keplerian element set. One is the semi-major axis in Kepler's law 1. We saw that it is an ellipse and semi-major axis is defined by J. And eccentricity E is less than 1 for ellipse, root of a square minus b square by a, that is eccentricity. And these two together gives the shape of the ellipse. This define the shape of the ellipse. And mean anomaly is another parameter. It shows position of satellite in its orbit with reference time, at a reference time, position of satellite in its orbit. And the argument of perigee is the perigee point relative to orbit's line of nodes. Line of nodes means you have an ascending node where orbit crosses equatorial plane going from south to north. So from south to north, you have a point in orbit crosses equatorial point, and from north to south, it crosses another point. So ascending node and descending node. Are there. So the line joining this ascending node. So this is the orbit. This is at an inclination, and that as a ascending node from south to north, it is cutting the plane, and north to south, it is cutting the plane. Line joining these are the line of nodes. So inclination is angle between orbital plane and equatorial plane. Ascending node is there, and perigee, argument of perigee is perigee point relative to line of nodes and inclination, and another parameter is right ascension of ascending node, which is orbital plane position to earth. We have just saw that this is the eccentricity E and I. A is semi-major axis. This is 2A, and A is semi-major axis, and E is eccentricity. B is semi-minor axis. This is 2B, and this is E. Eccentricity defined like this. And ascending node inclination is the angle between the orbit plane and equatorial plane. Argument of perigee is defined by this small omega. This omega. So this perigee relative to line of nodes, this angular position. Perigee is the point closest to Earth where satellite, when satellite orbits the Earth along the ellipse. Apogee is the farthest point. And there is a capital omega that is the right ascension of ascending node, because our ascending node longitude is not fixed. Longitude is the east-west direction. So it cannot be used as a reference, and longitude and time together can be used as a reference, but some absolute reference in space is required. So we need a reference which is outside, which is in space, that is passing through center of sun, and vernal equinox occurs when sun crosses equator going from south to north, and a line is drawn from that point to center of sun, and that is this line, and from that line to the plane is this capital omega. So we have a point in space, and this, so all these define the position of satellite. So those are the orbital elements. Now, because there is a bulge at the equator for Earth, it's not spherical, it causes low variations in the small omega and capital omega. So even if we define this, this is based on this spherical Earth, there's an equatorial bulge, and because other perturbing forces may alter orbital elements. So you can say only that at a specific time epoch, you can specify the orbital elements. You can specify the elements with a reference time, usually, because many of our assumptions are not correct. Equatorial bulge is there, it will create some variation, and there are other perturbing forces which alter the orbital elements. So these values are slightly varied. So there are some perturbations. Orbit described so far referred to as Keplerian orbit is elliptical. However, Keplerian orbit is ideal in the sense that it assumes Earth is uniform spherical mass, and the only force acting is centrifugal force resulting from satellite motion, balancing the gravitational pull of Earth. This is the starting point for derivation of our period based on Kepler's third law. This centrifugal force is balanced by this gravitational pull of Earth. So this is an ideal situation. However, there are other forces, gravitational forces of sun, moon, and atmospheric drag. All these forces are acting. So this gravitational pull of sun and moon have negligible effect on this low altitude satellites, but affect satellites in geostationary orbit, which are 36,000 kilometers away. So their effect is pronounced on this geostationary orbit. However, there could be low orbiting satellites on which these forces have negligible effect. Atmospheric drag has conveys this atmospheric drag has negligible effect on geostationary satellites, but affects satellites below 1,000 kilometers. So we have to account for the orbit perturbations. So we had written an expression for n. However, rather than n, actually if you take, there is an n0, which is for a perfect spherical Earth of uniform mass. So 0 denotes this is a equation which we had written last class based on the third law, and so this n, actually it is n naught, which denotes the spherical Earth, and based on that n is defined with some other parameter k1 as a constant, and E is our eccentricity, this is any major altitude, I is inclination, etc. So when we take real parameters, or there will be we have to account for these perturbations. So basically you have Earth. So shape of Earth is not spherical, it has a bulge. Then there is effect of sun, then there is atmospheric drag, there is effect of moon. So all these contribute to orbit perturbations. So coming to ellipticity, equatorial ellipticity. Earth is not circular in equatorial plane. So we cannot consider Earth as circular in equatorial plane. It has a small eccentricity of the order of 10 raised to -5. This is equatorial ellipticity. At the equator, it is not actually a circle. So the effect is to set up a gravity gradient, a variation in gravity, which has pronounced effect on satellites in geostationary orbit. This uh, deviation from this perfectly circular shape with the equator called equatorial ellipticity will set up a gravity gradient. A satellite in geostationary orbit ideally should remain fixed relative to Earth. That is what we theoretically assume. However, because of this equatorial ellipticity, the gravity gradient is there and it causes satellite in geostationary orbit to drift. And finally, it is found that there are two stable points, 75-degree east longitude and 105-degree west longitude. Longitude is east-west. So finally, they will settle there after drifting gradually. So if no corrective actions are taken. So satellites which are in service, they are doing service, are prevented from drifting to these points through station keeping maneuvers. Will do some corrective mechanism. It is called station keeping. So those satellites which are in service, it is prevented from drifting, which naturally occurs because of this equatorial ellipticity, and it will finally land up at these places. However, which are out of service satellites, if no satellite keeping maneuvers are done, they will finally drift to this point and they are collected there, satellite graveyards. So the effect of equatorial ellipticity is negligible on most other satellite orbits, basically affecting the geostationary orbit, not those low altitude orbits. And another orbital perturbation is the atmospheric drag for near Earth satellites below 1000 kilometers. The effect of atmospheric drag are significant. So drag is greatest at perigee. The drag acts to reduce velocity at this point, with the result that satellite does not reach the same apogee each on successive revolutions. So these are all variations, perturbations, and the result is that semi-major axis and eccentricity are both reduced. Drag does not noticeably change other parameters. Mean anomaly is also changed. So these are the effects of atmospheric drag. The velocity at perigee is varied because of this drag, and so it does not reach the apogee at the same height on successive revolutions. So these are the after effects, and semi-major axis, eccentricity, mean anomaly, etc. This I just put a figure to show that in the launch from the Earth, it goes to one orbit, then successive orbit, and finally it reaches the final orbit in stages only, not directly. So it goes to some orbit, then again some orbit, again a orbit, and then it reaches the final orbit, not a direct from here to here. So there are intermediate stages. So we had seen this how orbit is the elements are defined and how we can locate this, specify the position of satellite, and what are the perturbations which can happen to the orbit. And now we will look at the satellite subsystem. So basically, we have a payload which is basically the transponder, and so there are host of subsystems required for the transponder to work properly. So a satellite communication system broadly classified into ground segment and space segment. So naturally the transponder is in the space, and in the ground also we have earth stations. Space segment. So broadly the division is between ground segment and space segment. Space segment includes satellite, ground facilities needed to keep satellites operational. So space segment itself, we are including the facilities needed to keep satellite operational. So the facility basically which we are referring to is tracking, telemetry, and command facility. So TTNC is the abbreviation, tracking, telemetry, and command facility. And payload refers to equipment used to provide service for which satellite has been launched. So satellite has been launched for some specific purpose, and payload refers to equipment used to provide this service. Whatever is there, there will be lot of supporting systems as well. And so there is a term bus, and there is a term payload. Payload refers to equipment used to provide the service for which satellite has been launched. And bus refers not only to a vehicle which carries the payload, but to various subsystems which provide power. So you need many supporting facilities for satellite to be operational. One is you need power, you need all the solar panels, etc. Then there is attitude control, the direction control. There are systems for that. That also comes under this term bus. Then there is orbital control. So it should be in this orbit. So the orbital control is also coming under bus. Then thermal control, temperature we have to control. One side there could be sun and other side space is there, maybe cool. So thermal control is there. That comes. And command and telemetry function required to service the payload. So all these are called bus. So broadly you can classify as a transponder, equipment which provides connecting link between satellites, transmit and receive access. Actually, the transponder is a relay. It receives a signal from the uplink. That is the higher signal frequency of the two, and it converts into the lower frequency, which is the downlink. So that is the connection between satellites transmit and receive antenna. So in between you have an equipment which is the transponder, that's the link. So it receives the uplink and does some processing and transmits the downlink, and we have a bus system which has a lot of various other functions which supports this payload. So first system or the component in the communication subsystem in the satellite is a power supply. It is obtained from solar cells. So individual cells can generate small amounts of power. So naturally we have an array of cells in series parallel connections are required. So array of cells in series parallel connections. Now we have higher power we can obtain with solar panels arranged in the form of rectangular solar sails, and they are folded. They are folded during launch phase and extended when in geostationary orbit. So this is the source of power. Basically, this is the source of power. Solar sails are folded. It is an solar panels are arranged in the forms of solar cells, and once in orbit it is extended. However, during certain time there could be eclipse, and there could be there would not be sun. So storage batteries also have to be provided. Batteries are required because always you don't have this output here, so there is a need for storage as well. So nickel, cadmium, or some other for storage. So first function in the bus is power, and the next function is attitude control. Attitude means orientation in space. So your antenna is looking at a earth station, that uplink side, and the downlink side, okay, it is the footprint. So however it has to focus to some area which is intended. So the orientation is in space. That's the attitude. Much of the equipment carried abroad a satellite is there for controlling its attitude. So attitude control is necessary to ensure that directional antenna point in proper direction. So you have to ensure it. So in case of Earth environmental satellites, Earth sensing instruments must cover required regions of Earth which requires attitude control. So environment sensing, uh, those sensing instruments should cover the required regions of Earth. So this is the need for attitude control. A number of forces referred to as disturbance torque can alter attitude. So some examples being the gravitational field of Earth and Moon, solar radiation, meteorite impact, etc. So periodically you need to have a idea about this orientation and you have to do corrective mechanisms. So there can be various forces which can alter the attitude. So there is another term station keeping that is different. We will come to that. That is maintaining satellite in correct orbital position. A box like a space in which the satellite should be maintained within a rectangular area. So that is station keep. That is its correct orbital position, whereas attitude control is the direction of this antenna. So to exercise attitude control, there must be available some measure of satellite's orientation in space and any tendency for this to shift. So we should be aware of the orientation of satellite in space and any tendency for this to shift. One method is to have infrared sensors used to detect rim of Earth against background of space. And if you have four such sensors, one for each quadrant, center of the Earth can be readily established as reference point, and whereby we can somehow have a idea of the orientation. So this is one method to have four infrared sensors and locating the center of the Earth as a reference point. Any shift in orientation can be detected by sensors and control signal is generated and it should activate a restoring torque. So this can take place abroad the satellite. Can take place within the satellite. The sensing as well as restoring can be done within the satellite, abroad satellite. Attitude control process takes place abroad satellite. Also, it is also possible for control signal to be transmitted from Earth based on attitude data obtained from satellite. It will not be full-fledged abroad in this within the satellite itself. It is possible for control signals to be transmitted from Earth based on attitude data obtained from satellite as well. So when shift in attitude is desired, attitude maneuver is executed. Control signals to achieve this maneuvering may be transmitted from Earth station. Can be transmitted from the appropriate maneuvering has to be done. So some torque, some balancing torque or some restoring torque has to be done. So we have to generate torque, controlling torque generation. So there are mechanisms to generate controlling torque, various mechanisms. One is passive attitude control. So this attitude control use of mechanisms which stabilize the satellite without putting a drain on satellite's energy supply. So basically, some thruster jets are impulsed to provide corrective torque. And there are further spin stabilization, gravity gradient stabilization, and this gravity gradient stabilization depends on interaction of satellite with gravitational field of central body. So there are many methods for controlling for this correcting torque to provide correcting torque. So finally, we need to generate a correction torque. So active control means no overall stabilizing torque present to resist a disturbing torque. Rather than resisting this disturbing torque, we can apply corrective torque in response to disturbance torque. So let that disturbance happen, and whenever it happens, we will counter it with a corrective torque. Here you are avoiding those such disturbance. Not stabilizing methods. So this corrective torques are based on momentum wheels, electromagnetic coils, mass expulsion devices such as gas jets, iron thrusters, etc. So, uh, these are these corrective methods. Electromagnetic coil. So one of method is like electromagnetic coil works on principle that a magnetic field exerts a torque on a current carrying coil, and this torque can be controlled through the control of current. This only for satellites relatively close. This is one method. There are many methods. We are not going into details of any of these methods. However, we need to know that controlling torques are to be generated to to correct this attitude. And basically, if you have a Earth and an orbit, so here there are three axes which we can find. So one axis is three axes are there. One axis, this is a satellite. So satellite towards center of the Earth, from satellite to center of the Earth. This is the yaw axis to center of the Earth, from satellite to center of the Earth. And three axes define a satellite's attitude. So they all these three axes pass through center of gravity of the satellite. For equatorial orbit, movement of satellite about, so this roll axis, this is the roll axis, this is the pitch axis. So this pitch axis, the axis, yaw axis is from satellite to center of Earth. Pitch axis is normal. So roll, pitch and yaw. The yaw axis is directed towards Earth center. Pitch axis is normal to orbital plane. So normal to this plane, you have this pitch axis. And the roll axis is perpendicular to other thing. Roll axis is perpendicular to other thing. This is the center of Earth. This is to normal to orbital plane. This is perpendicular to other thing. The RPI axis for geostationary orbit. So this is shown for a geostationary orbit. Here roll axis is tangential to the orbit and lies along the satellite velocity vector. So you can rotate satellites about the roll axis or about the yaw axis or about the pitch axis to attain this attitude control. So movement of satellite about roll axis moves antenna footprint north and south about the roll axis. Moves antenna footprint north and south. Movement about pitch axis moves footprint east and west, and movement about your axis rotates the footprint. So this is another method. So, we need to locate the attitude. We need to sense the attitude. We need to find the variation, and we need to find the restoring torque, generate the torque. So those are the basic attitude control part. So uh, one function of in the bus is the power control. Next is attitude control. So related to attitude control, which is direction, orientation space, there is another function called as station. So we had seen that equatorial ellipticity of the Earth is not circular. So because of this equatorial ellipticity of the Earth, it is causing geostationary satellite to drift slowly along the orbit because of the gravity gradient to one of these points, 75 east and 5S. So again, we should not allow this to happen. So you should keep satellite within a rectangular box, an area, a rectangle. So to counter this drift, oppositely directed velocity component is imparted to the satellite by means of jets which are pulsed every 2 or 3 weeks. So this results in satellite drifting back through its nominal station position, coming to a stop, and then again this drift will start. Again we will pulse this jet. So we will continue to do this every 2 or 3 weeks. So these maneuvers term east-west station keeping. East-west station keeping satellites in is 6 for gigahertz. Higher is for uplink and lower is for downlink. Must be kept within plus or minus 0.1 degree of designated longitude. And in longitude is east-west. 1412, this is KU. Higher frequency for uplink and lower for downlink. Within 0.05 degree. This is the east-west. This is the longitude and this is the latitude. I just put it there. And again, satellite which is normally geostationary will also drift in latitude. Latitude is north-south. Main perturbing forces being gravitational pull of sun and moon. These forces cause inclination to change at the rate of 0.5 degree per year. We know that there is an angle for the orbital plane with the equatorial plane, and that is this I, and that also will change because of gravitational pull of sun and moon. So we need north-south station keeping to prevent this shift in inclination from exceeding specified, like we saw a degree tolerance is there. Jets must be pulsed at appropriate time. So these maneuvers are termed north-south station keeping and are much more expensive in fuel than east-west station keeping maneuvers. The north-south station keeping tolerance are the same as those of east-west station keeping. This much in the C-band and this in the KU band. So C-band is 4 to 6 and KU band is 12 14. Actually, uplink is the higher of these. So the station keeping means the keeping it in the position and within a tolerance specified depending upon the band in the north-south direction as well as east-west direction, the latitude and in longitude. And attitude control is the orientation of this satellite and power system we are seeing. So the orbital correction is carried out by command from TT&C. So telemetry and control and command. Active telemetry and command station which monitors the satellite position. East-west and north-south station keeping maneuvers are usually carried out using the same thrusters that are used for attitude control. So the other portion we'll look at in the next class.